This is my favorite story. The story of Jacob. He wrestled with God and won. Welcome back, everybody. It's so good to see you.
Yes, Jaren, and as always, I'm super pumped to be covering one of your faves.
Rather than give you a 20-part series about Jacob.
Because, we've done that before. David?
We don't speak about the last season of the show publicly.
Yes, that will forever be a reminder to be better. Do better.
We want to give you a brief history of who Jacob is before we get into the nuts and bolts. Isaac, Jacob's father, had a birthright, and his job was to give it to one of his sons, Jacob and Esau.
His birthright was super important because whoever inherited it also got all of the power, authority, and responsibility of the father. And as we all know, more responsibility, more problems.
To make a long story short, Esau, Jacob's older brother, was in line for the birthright. But because Jacob's mother had another idea, they came up with a plan that involved stew.
Yes, well, one day Esau was hunting because he was a hunter. He was so hungry that he literally thought that he would die. Dramatic much? And he was so desperate for some food that he traded his birthright to his brother for some stew. And I really hope that it was worth it.
Could you imagine giving up your entire inheritance for some Panera? I love Panera. Panera's great. They have gluten-free options for Melissa. But your inheritance, your entire life, your status, all for some stew? Okay, Jacob got the birthright, and Isaac was going blind, and his mother was still scheming.
Oh, did they ever scheme? Rebecca had overheard her husband Isaac asking their eldest Esau to go out and hunt and prepare some food because the man was close to death and he had to transfer the blessing of the birthright real quick. And Rebecca took advantage of this situation to get her favorite son to go out and get some goat so that way she could make some stew instead and essentially steal the blessing from the dad.
And it worked. His dad did bless him. And this created a fundamental divide between Jacob and Esau for the rest of the Bible. And this is when we fast forward the story a little bit to get to where we're going. A lot happened between where we are now and to where Jacob wrestled with God. He married two sisters. He climbed a ladder. He did a bunch of other stuff. Foundation of the song, Jacob's Ladder. And Jacob is trying to make amends. But before he gets there, an encounter with God.
We honestly might need to make a video on Jacob and all his life in between because it is so full of so many twists and turns and backstabbing and everything. Oh my goodness. Jacob had run away from home because of the divide that he had with his brother. And like Jaren said, he was on the path to make amends. And here he was, coming back.
From what we've told you about Jacob, he seems ruthless and rash. And that's true. But during his time away, he learned something incredible. He learned how to ask for what he wants. And this leads to an incredible encounter with Christ.
And ultimately, it leads to a great relationship with God. Well, Jacob was helping his family cross over a river, and he went back for his stuff, as one does, which left Jacob alone at the camp.
Jacob encounters a man who just randomly starts to wrestle with him. Melissa, is this what you train for in your personal training? You would be totally prepared for a situation like this.
This is absolutely not what I'm training for. If I was in a situation where I had to wrestle someone, I think I'd last a total of like 3 seconds. Because I train to lift things, not wrestle people.
That people who you're talking about is with a capital P. He's wrestling God himself, which is insane.
Yeah, well, that person with a capital P. One touch to Jacob's hip totally immobilized him.
And he didn't even let go, even though God was telling him to let go. Firstly, you wrestle me, then you think I'm just gonna let go? Melissa, did you know that I actually tried out for the high school wrestling team?
No. No, I did not. And why did I have to wait for this collab video to find this out, friend?
It's not something I like to talk about. It brings out, the angry side of me. Also, I didn't make the team.
Jacob was definitely stubborn because he would not let go of the man until he got a blessing. Jacob over here, demanding blessings of the big guy.
And out of this, Jacob got a name change, and it's a big deal because this is the first time we hear in the Bible Israel.
Yes, and Jacob Israel got his blessing. Listen, this guy was definitely a rebel because he literally wrestled with God himself and for going against his ordinal positioning and ultimately his whole culture. He was really forging his own path.
Jacob fought so hard for his birthright, but if you look at it, he fought even harder for his blessing with God. God used what was naturally inside Jacob to bring about new beginnings. Who Jacob was inspired a nation. Even when we think certain things inside of us are bad or not good, God uses those things, even when those things are rebellious.
You know, I never thought of it that way, and I really genuinely do like the way that you thought about and explained that, friend. Definitely agree. I think God has an amazing ability to turn all of our ick parts and turn them into something that is amazing, and that could be a strength. I think that when we list our weaknesses, God likes to just laugh at us, and he likes us to just step aside and let him instead.
And I love a good sports story. It's not often we see the God side lose, but I guess we're all on the same team.
That brings us to the end of episode 2.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. See ya.